What is up, gents? 40k Dirtbags here. I'm going to do a quick video for you guys. In Discord, there's a lot of people that keep sending lists of different factions and Brotherhood and stuff like that, and we always talk about like what we should suggest on switching. And I wanted to make a quick guide for all my Grey Knight brethren who are really unsure of what they want to play test or run or tournament coming up, and they're like, all right, what Brotherhood is the best? It's not really what Brotherhood is the best, it's which one do you want to play. So we're going to go over one by one all of the Brotherhoods. Hopefully it's not a too long of a video, but I'm going to give you my insight on my suggestions as well as my gameplay that I've played in the past, and what's going to be good coming up in Arcs of Omen. So again, I had it in my mind. I wanted to make a quick video. Thank you all my Patreons who support me on Patreon. There are a couple different tiers if you just want to support the channel. And Discord, if you guys aren't there yet, go join Discord. And also the new stuff that's coming up in merch. We're selling a shit ton of dice, as well as objective markers. So that's also in Discord. So let's get into the video. Again, I'm going to try and make it quick for you guys so you aren't sitting here for fucking 3 hours going over this. I do have a bunch of videos from the beginning when Grey Knights first came out. If you want to check that on my YouTube, it's about a year or two old, but it goes over in-depth relics, everything. So we're going to start off just on Wikipedia. We're going to use it to our advantage. We're just going to go down all of these, and I'm going to go through the ones that I have ran the most. So Sword Bearers, I ran the most in the very beginning when it came to the Storm Raven. That was a couple months ago, but we're going to go through really what you get out of it and kind of the list you want to try and build towards. So Sword Bearers are made for the vehicles that you're running, whether it be the Dread Knights or the Razorbacks or the Storm Raven. But the whole goal of this is to kind of buff up your vehicles and just nuke something into oblivion. That's kind of what Sword Bearers are all about. So they have Mark for Death, 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select one enemy unit within 12 inches and visible to the Sword Bearer Psyker. So that's anybody in your army that's a Psyker. You can use it on an Interceptor squad. They hop out, spend 2 CP, and cast it, or use it on a model within 12 inches of them. So basically you have a 24-inch, 27 inches if they get out of the Rhino, to put the CP on a target. You can use this coming out of Deep Strike as well. So if somebody comes out of Deep Strike, you can then just spend 2 CP. This adds 1 to the attack hit roll. So if you're running all Dread Knights or all Dreadnoughts, they're all ballistic skill 3, you don't really have a lot of buffing people, or they're all spread out. You can use this to kind of nuke down a big tank or nuke down a big unit of Terminators that you really want to kill. So that basically means everybody in your army is hitting on 2s most likely, for 2 CP. Now, this is a good strat if there is a big block, if it's like a bunch of random units and it's not really going to be to your advantage. But it's cool if you just kind of want to come out and nuke something off the table. This one is really good. It's a power that it goes off on a 7, which you're going to get like 50-50 shot to cast this. It's an 18-inch range, and it's just select, so you don't have to have line of sight until the start of your next psych phase. Each time a friendly Sword Bearer vehicle, so not unit, just vehicle, so your Dreadnoughts, your Dread Knights, your Grandmaster Dread Knight, range attacks against that, and it's only range attacks. Add 1 to the attack wound roll, so it's +1 to wound, which actually comes in handy now because everybody lost armor contempt. All of our strength 8 goes to 3s on most vehicles, and then now 2s if you want to kill a big tank, especially with guard coming up. Can only be selected once per phase. So that's the only downside, is you can only cast this once. So if you fail it, you're kind of screwed. So you're most likely going to be spending this for 1 CP to try and roll 3 dice, drop the lowest. You can cast this with your Librarian. So if the Librarian comes out of Deep Strike, does a bunch of mortal wounds, you can spend 1 CP and roll an additional power, and then this could be your 3rd power instead of a smite. You can do this one by targeting. It's not the closest, it's basically just targeting. So let's say the Livy comes down, does a bunch of mortal wounds, and then you target something that you really want to blow up with your Dread Knights. You're rolling 3 dice against the Librarian, and you need a 7. So most of the time it's going to go off, but that's a little trick that you can do with the Lodestone. The Warlord trait, it's another sanctuary that you can basically cast. So work charge value of a 5, so it's really low. It's only can attempt to perform the psychic action, so it is an action. If completed, select 1 vehicle within 12 inches, so it's really small, and then they have a 4-up invuln save. So I'd rather just cast Sanctuary. So and Sanctuary is 18 inches, I think. So this is only 12. So it's just another Sanctuary that you can put out, like buffing up 2 vehicles or a Storm Raven and another vehicle. Most of our dreads have 4 Invuln save anyway, so it's okay. This would probably be ranked maybe 3rd for me, 3rd or 4th Brotherhood. It's very niche. Like, you have to like vehicles and want to run a list for vehicles. But you could buff up like servitors if you want to do +1 to hit on a servitor. They basically hit on 4s, I believe, within 6 or 9 inches of a tech priest, and then +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 3s. That's cool. Let's go next one, Blades of Victory. This is probably my favorite Brotherhood, but I only say because it's favorite, it's because I have a lot of reps with it. It's very aggressive. It's my play style, and you have to build kind of towards it. So this one has Radiant Strike in your charge phase with the Blades Victory Infantry Core. So all of our infantry finishes as a charge move. Select one enemy within engagement range. Now, engagement range, be careful. You have to be within 1 inch. It doesn't work for half of a half. That's not engagement range. That's 2nd rank. So it has to be ending within 1 inch. So if you get all 5 of your interceptors into combat, you roll on their toughness characteristic, and if it equals or exceeds, so basically if you roll a 4+ on Marines or 5+ against guard or something, or Death Guard or tanks, you're probably not going to do it against tanks. But if you're going against another infantry unit, it's going to be good. Or Sisters or Harlequins, they're toughness 3, so 3 or higher, they're going to do mortal wounds. So they suffer 1 mortal wound for every one that you equal to, or higher the mortal wound. So that's pretty cool. It's just an extra way to do mortal wounds in a different phase. Against Abaddon, you need 6s, so it's not really worth it. Catan, you probably need 6s as well, unless they're toughness 7, then you can't even do it. So it's very hard for like really tanky characters, but for softer characters, it's great. You get like 5 units or 5 men into like a 1/4 toughness character, and you just nuke the character before you even attack. This one's cool. So this is you need a 6 to cast it, and you get to reroll a charge with a unit. So you can use this for the initial interceptor unit, or coming out of deep strike, you can cast this power and then hopefully get 2 chances to make that 9-inch charge. And this works really well with first to the fray, because you get +1 to charge. It also works really well with the tides that you have a minimum of 3 on the dice. So if you're at first to the fray, like a unit, and you're trying to charge that unit with your Grandmaster or somebody in combat with your Grandmaster, you get +1 to charge. Then if you're in 1 tide, every dice is a minimum of 3, so you only need to roll a 5 on 2 dice, one of the 2 dice. So let's say you roll a 5, the other one is automatically guaranteed 3, so then you got your 8. Now you made the charge. So it's very easy to get out of deep strike and make that charge with a reroll. So the statistics are very high with this little combo right here. This one is a need, so you need this if you're going to run the Blades of Victory. You put this on the Grandmaster Dread Knight core, so this really works with everybody in the Blades of Victory besides Paladins. Obviously, they're not Blades of Victory, but anything core. So you have your Terminator Squad, Strike Squad, Dreadnought, Interceptor Squad, Dread Knight, and Purgation Squad. So really anybody that you want to move up, most of the time it's going to be the Interceptor Squad. So your list, right, is going to be Drago, Grandmaster, Librarian, right, Tech Priest, and maybe another Libby or Tech Priest, whatever you want. But it's going to be Drago giving an Interceptor unit full rerolls, giving them Sanctuary, them casting either on the center objective for Purify Ritual or casting the reroll charges turn 1. What your Grandmaster does is he has to start within 9 inches of that unit. That unit then gets the pregame move, 6 inches, so it helps out in some scenarios, also missions where you don't get a CP unless you start on that one objective. So now you actually get that CP, so that helps. So you move up 6 inches, you keep one guy within 6 inches of Drago, right? So put Drago pretty far forward. And then on turn 1, they move up 12. So basically you have an 18 inches turn 1 movement if you go first. 18 inches turn 1 movement where you're in their face, which if they're on the line for most missions, you're going to have a 6-inch charge with a reroll if you get it off, and they have full rerolls to hit. It's pretty good. You're most likely going to start in the Doctrine where your 6s do mortal wounds. because then you just nuke off a character if they're up front, or a unit turn 1, and then you consolidate into either tanks or other units that aren't going to kill you back, and you have a 4-up invuln save. So basically you're tying up the whole front line of their deployment zone turn 1. That's why I love this thing so much, this Brotherhood. So that is, I think I'm going to rank 1 and 2, because it's a toss-up. If you have a lot of experience with Grey Knights, this is super fun. If you don't have a lot of experience with Grey Knights, the next one is going to be Prescient Brotherhood. Prescient Brotherhood, I believe, is going to be number 1, because it's the most consistent and easiest to master. All right, most consistent, easiest to master Brotherhood. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be having Foresight, which is probably one of the best strats we have in our codex, in the shooting phase or the fight phase. So any phase, you can spend 1 CP, and they get to reroll hits and wounds of 1. So if you roll 10 ones, you get to reroll all of them. If you roll 10 ones to wound, you get to reroll all of them. So it's really, really good, especially if you have like a Grandmaster that hits on 2s either way. If you have a Dread Knight that you buffed up to hit on 2s, and then you get to reroll 1s, very good on those Dread Knights. So also my Interceptor squads that I'm launching out of my Rhino 15 inches, I'm launching them out, not really buffed up because they're in the Rhino during the command phase, so I can't give them 4 rerolls to hit. So they're getting launched out, and I still can cast 1 CP on them when they charge to reroll 1s to hit and wound. That is such a good combo. It's probably the best buff CP thing that we have for our Interceptor squads coming out of Rhino. So that is definitely one of the best ones to do. And then the Psychic Power, I use this all the time, honestly. You put it on a unit that you know is going to be coming at you. It's great for anybody that's super melee heavy, or for characters. You don't need line of sight. It's within 12 inches. Anybody can cast it. It goes off on a 5, so it's very reliable. You put it on Abaddon, right? Abaddon, then if he moves on a 4+, he takes D3 mortal wounds. If he advances, he takes it's either or, move or advance. On a 4+, he takes D3 mortal. So you basically are helping get that phase cap model phase capped. And then if he does a charge, so it could happen twice in a turn. If he charges on a 4+, he takes D3 mortals. I actually killed Celestine because of this power. I rolled a 4+, did 3 mortal wounds when she moved, and then she charged me. I rolled a 4+, did 3 mortal wounds, and then she died. It was the best moment I've ever used with the Psychic Power. So it's a chance, 50-50 shot, but still it's threatening, because then they're like, crap, do I really want to take the mortal wounds? Do I want to move? Do I not want to move? It's very psychological with this this power. Then the divination. So I think this is one of the only ones where we take all 3. So we take the Psychic Power, we obviously take the Warlord trait, and we use the CP. So the Warlord trait, you put this on a character or a Tech Marine that you know isn't really going to be doing much. You don't really want to put this on your characters that are doing shit during the game. So you're going to put this on a Tech Priest to kind of just sit back all the way in the back objective and just cast this every single turn. You're going to put this on an Apothecary that doesn't really have a lot to do. You're going to put this on a Banner if you're bringing a Banner. You're going to put this on anybody that could really just sit back and not do anything. Those are like the main ones that you're going to be putting on. Brother Captain, right, is just sitting back and putting and doing this every single turn, because he's letting everybody within 6 inches reroll 1s to wound. So it goes off on a 6. So, you know, it's about 55% chance of getting this off, but you get a CP. It's basically an automatic CP every game if you get this off, or every turn if you get this off. So you can get an extra 4 CP throughout the game, because you're going to spend 1 CP to bring this, but potentially every single turn you're going to be able to get an extra CP above the CP that you're getting already. So it definitely helps out with if I cast it, I then know, all right, I can spend 1 extra CP on my Mortal and Librarian to do a shit ton more. If you fail it, you're like, all right, now I don't get to spend that 1 CP, and I can be kind of more cautious with it. So this is definitely a great Warlord trait that you can bring. So why I say this is the easiest is because of the CP. You get a CP. The 1 CP strat, it's 1 CP, so very, very good. And the Psychic Power. So it kind of helps you do all 3 in different phases. So that's why I think Prescient is definitely one of the number 1 Brotherhood that we can be running, and it's the number 1 to master. Most lists, you can run this list without a Grand Master in it, Dread Knight, but I would definitely suggest going with Mortal Wound Librarian, because the extra CP helps nuke with the Mortal Wound Librarian. Having a Tech Priest be the one to cast Divination, bringing 2 to 3 Dread Knights, so that way the Tech Priest has something to buff. You could bring 2 Tech Priests if you really want to, but definitely Mortal Wound Librarian. And Drago is always great in almost every single list. So that's probably what I'd be bringing with Prescient. Then I think the next one that might be best, or arguably third place above Sword Bearers, is going to be Rapiers. I am not a huge fan of Rapiers. It was like the number one thing when Grey Knights first came out. It's fun. It hits potentially really hard. It's just all random. So if you're bringing Drago is almost needed for this Brotherhood. The reason because use the stratagem in your fight phase. When a Rapier's unit from your army is selected to fight, until the end of the phase, that model gets unmodified hit roll of a 6. So we don't have any other rerolls besides just our Grandmaster reroll of 1s. But if I have full rerolls from Drago on a Interceptor unit or a Strike unit or a Terminator unit, they're going to get full rerolls to hit for exploding 6s. The Grandmaster, a cool little thing with this is if you bring a Grandmaster with the Demon Slayer, he gets +1 attack, and then you could do this power for an additional, add 1 to the attack, so another +1 attack. So your Grandmaster on his sweep with the sword is getting 8 attacks times 2 is 16 sweep attacks. If Drago gives him full rerolls, you're doing full rerolls to hitting on 2s most of the time with 16 sweep attacks. Strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage. With Armor Contempt, it's even better. And if you're in the Mortal Wound Tide, 6s to wound, do Mortal Wound. So that's a little combo that you could be doing with Rapiers and your Grandmaster. But that also involves Drago getting the full rerolls to hit. So it's also 1 CP as well as the psychic power going off on them. So it goes off on a 6. This is great for Rapiers, because they don't really have a lot of, their psychic power is move, shoot, move. But if you're like, all right, I'm going to throw these guys forward or throw them out of a Rhino, you're going to get that extra attack rolling a 6. So it's just more attacks. We already start with 3 attacks. Now they go up to 4 attacks. So you're at 21 attacks from a 5-man unit, hitting on 3s. You can spend 1 C if you really want the rerolls, but I probably wouldn't. Hitting on 3s, and then wounding on most of the time 3s because you're strength 6 on your halberds. So it's just a lot of attacks. It's fun. And then this one, Warlord's Elbow declare a charge, even if it advanced. So now this one, me and Quinn have opposite things on this. I was talking to Rick about this as well. So if I bring this, most likely I'm just going to bring my incinerator on my Grandmaster, maybe a side cannon incinerator, so that way, because you can't shoot your incinerator either, but at least if you're in combat and you want to get to combat as soon as possible, you can declare a charge after you advance. So let's say you move up 9, right? You advance, if you want in the 1 tide, it's minimum 3, and then if you have first of the fray, you get minimum 4, and then if you charge, you're charging minimum 6, 7, right? So you're charging minimum 7 inches. So 7 inches plus 4 is 11, plus 9, 20 inch threat range with your Grandmaster, not including a better advance roll or a better charge roll. So 20 minimum inch for your charge, and if he has, again, he has to have first of the fray, and you give him the Warlord trait. Warlord trait is going to be this one and first of the fray, so you can't get the Demon Slayer one. So it's only these 2. Unless somebody else has first of the fray, which doesn't really... All right, so it has to be first of the fray, it has to be this one. So you only get 14 attacks on the sweep instead of 16 attacks, but still, it's pretty cool. That's the little combo that you can do with your Grandmaster with this, but again, the Flamer, he can shoot it in combat, and the side cannon he can shoot in combat, which still strength 8, AP 2 damage. So you're going to be killing a lot of stuff with that combo. So yeah, that's the Rapiers. The list would probably be 30 Interceptors, Drago, Grandmaster, Tech Priest, 2 or 3 Dread Knights, 3 or 4 Strike Squads, and maybe a Rhino. So it's not made for the Mortal Wound Liberty because you're not really you're basically just trying to get into combat as much as possible. Strikes and Terminators really like this Brotherhood because you can reroll all wounds with their power. So if Drago gives a strike squad reroll all hit and all wounds and an extra attack and exploding sixes, like strike squads love this Brotherhood. Having 10 of them in a Rhino and just kind of, move forward. You can't get the Drago buff, but 10 of them protecting your backfield, give them full rerolls to hit. They cast Hammer Hand for full rerolls to wound. It works on the Dread Knights as well. They have Hammer Hand, so that's a good combo. You can then gate them after you give them full rerolls to hit. Gate them. If your Grandmaster is first to the fray, they have to make an 8-inch charge. So that's a cool little combo. That's actually a deadly fucking combo. So 10 strikes, or just 5 strikes. Like launch 5 strikes out each turn. So they get launched out. They shoot their bolters. They can then charge something that's in combat with your Grandmaster, so they need an 8. If you're in the one tied, you can have a minimum 8-inch charge, right? So that's something to test out as well. So Rapiers, again, it's fun. It's, I wouldn't say the easiest to go, but it does have some quirks with it. Now, what do we measure out the next one? Word Makers, I know there's a guy in LVO playing this and actually did pretty well with it. Preservers, very unique. Exactors and Silver Blades. So these two last year we're going to save for last. But let's go with Word Makers next. Word Makers brings a character that you can't bring anywhere else, which is Voldus. Voldus used to be able to cast 3. He can only cast 2 now. So let's just look at Voldus real quick. You can only bring him in Word Makers, but he has a melee Demon Hammer that doesn't suffer the penalty to hit. So he hits on 2s in combat. He has 6 attacks, 6 wounds, 2 up save, 135 points. He can cast 2 powers, 4 pinball and save, and rerolls 1s to hit. Cast 2 powers. So his Warlord trait is anything over an 8+, cannot be denied. So that's the Word Maker Warlord trait. It's cool if you're mainly focused on just doing powers. So you can give your Librarian that power. So that way, if he rolls 3 dice and rolls over an 8, he can't be denied on any of his powers. I believe it's an unmodified 8. Yeah, an unmodified. So it has to be an 8. But if you're rolling 3 dice, drop the lowest, you can definitely, hopefully, get an 8+ on some of the powers. So the Gem of Anaktu wouldn't count towards it. Getting +1 to cast from another power is not going to work for it. But if you roll an 8+, my Vortex of Doom can't be denied. My Purify Flame can't be denied. And then you can also cast a Smite on top of that. He won't get the extra, Smite or extra Mortal Wound unless you make him your Warlord, and then you give him 2 Warlord powers. This one, as well as the +1 Mortal Wound to Psychic powers. Then use stratagem in your command phase, character, select one in Dominus. So you just basically replace it. For 1 CP, you can replace a power that you don't know. Which, and then this one, Malediction War Charger 6. If manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 12 inches at the start of next command phase. Not else, so ors. Shuts off ors. There's a lot of ors in the game. Let's say you have an or for OBSEC, you can then shut that off. If you have an or for Feel No Pain, you can shut that off. So basically, you're getting rid of these ors on characters or units. Not affected by ors. So basically, if you put it on a Terminator unit that's like right in front of you, any aura that they're getting from their rerolls to hit or Feel No Pains, right, from an Apothecary, they're not going to be able to get that. So it's a cool niche where if you're facing an army that has a lot of auras, maybe Tau or something like that, you can then shut them off till the next turn. So it's a cool niche. I would really bring it if you really like casting powers and you want to kind of bring in an unstoppable Mortal Wound Librarian. That's why I would bring this Brotherhood. All right, so let's go into Preservers because I have ran Preservers before. Preservers are niche when it comes to the 5-up Feel No Pain for your Apothecary. So the only thing why I don't like it is because you have to cast the power to get the 5-up Feel No Pain, and it's only for that unit. If they would have been like put this on the Apothecary, with the Apothecary can cast this, and then everything within 3 inches or 6 inches if you give an extension gets 5 Feel No Pain. That would be a lot better, but it's only on that specific unit. So like if I gave my Apothecary at 3 inches to the aura abilities, right? So now it's a 6-inch aura of Feel No Pain. You can still do that here, but it's only a 6 of Feel No Pain. Now, if you're running a unit, let's say a 10-man Terminator unit, then you can cast this power, which then you won't be able to cast Hammerhand unless you spend 1 CP. But cast on a 6, so it's like a 55% chance. You get a Feel No Pain on a 5+ instead. While this enemy psychic is within 3 inches of friendly unit Apothecary, this psychic unit is infantry. So this is what I don't get. Maybe it doesn't work because if you give your Apothecary 3 more inches, then is it 6 inches? Or is it still only 3? Because this is worded for 3. But maybe that would have to be a fact. You'd have to ask your person. I mean, it was probably made to be within 3. And then if the Apothecary has an extra 3 inch for the aura, it would be 6. I would argue that for it to be 6. But that's not my call. That's up to your leader in your group. But 5 up Feel No Pain, which is pretty good, especially on Grey Knight Terminators. So they have a 2 up in cover, and then they have a 5 up Feel No Pain. So it's okay. They still die, right? But then the Apothecary can bring one back. You can threaten the charge range. Let's say you gate them, and then at the end of the movement phase, you keep one within 3 inches of the Apothecary. The Apothecary can spend 1 CP, and then you can make a Terminator. So that way your charge distance is like a 5 now after you gated them. So it counts towards teleport assault. So that's a little trick with Apothecaries and units. So, but you have to spend 1 CP to bring it back. So that is I tried this before, and it's not worth it to bring a Dreadnought for the move characteristic 8. Most big units that we're facing already move 8 or 9. Our Dreadknights move 9 inches. So he's still going to have to run to keep up to everything. Can reroll charge rolls. Maybe it's good if he comes in from reserves. It's still not the best. And then you get +1 to the damage. So your damage is 3 on your melee weapon. And charge, I want to damage to, and that's it. So just +1 damage if it charged. I don't know if it's worth the CP. I'd rather just have one in the back shooting with a last cannon missile launcher and then spending 1 CP, so that way everything within 6 inches gets to reroll once to wound. That's what I would use my Dreadnought for. So this one is probably bottom 3. Unless you really like Terminators, I would run this if you're going to be running Terminators. Then let's go to Exactors. So these last two, I'm not really going to go over too much because they're bottom of the barrel, but there might be some tricks that I don't know about, so leave it in the comments below. Let's go to Exactors, so Sancted Guardians. So if you're playing a good player, I tried this out when the book first came out. You can heroic intervene for 1 CP, but if you're playing good players, they're going to try and stay out of 3 inches of the unit that's closest to their charge target. So if you charge a unit, if they stay 3 inches away from another unit, you can't heroic intervene, so it's kind of pointless. This is only good if like your whole army is really close to each other, or you're playing like a newer player. So that's the 1 CP strat for that. Then Psychic Power, Warp Charge of 5 if manifested, select 1 enemy engagement range. Roll 1d6 for each enemy model. For each model in that unit, on a 4+, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So it's a warlord trait enemy unit. So 1 additional mortal wound for all the dice rolls that are made. This is the Psychic Power. So you have to have already been in combat to cast this because it's in engagement range. So it's good for like a horde, right? If you're surrounded and you want to do this. But again, it's hard to get off because I can't charge you and then cast this. It has to be casted, and then enemy units in the engagement range will take this power. That's why it's very maybe, right? It's a cool power if I can charge in, cast it, and then it's like an old school Purify Flame. But that doesn't work unless you're already in combat, which most of the time for in combat, we're probably dead anyway, because we're using it to trade. This one, add 1 to the Warlord characteristic. While friendly Exactor core is within 6 inches of the Warlord, morale test automatically pass morale test. This is good if you're running 10-man units. Most of the time, we're not going to be running 10-man units. It's all 5-man units. So that is why I would be ranking this one of the lower ones, because it's very situational and you can stop it pretty easily. Then I just want to make sure I didn't miss any. All right, then finally we got silver blades. This one I think turns at pistols or something, your bolters into pistols. Okay, so we got adaptive excoriation. Cool. Use strategy in the movement phase. When a silver blade's core unit falls back, that unit is still eligible to shoot in which it fell back. So we have a 1 CP strat for teleporters. So all of our interceptors and our dread knights, because they're free now, you can spend 1 CP strat to fall back, shoot, and charge. So this only works with really units like terminators or strikes or purifiers or something like that. But most of the time we're gonna want to get back into combat because we're better in combat than we are at shooting. So that one's kind of like And then temporal acceleration, warp charge of 5. All storm bolters, master crafted storm bolters, and relics replacing storm bolters become pistol 4. So this is being able to shoot in combat with all of your storm bolters. This is great for, again, big Terminator unit, people that are already locked in combat. That's really it. So it's a psychic power. So you're giving up hammer hand if you're in combat. You're giving up if you're an interceptor squad, I'd rather just spend 1 CP to fall back and shoot my storm bolters and then charge. And then the warlord one is at the start of the fight phase. If is within engagement range, fight first. So it's a warlord trait, so you get to fight first. That's pretty cool. And then, but we have a relic for that. It's a psychic power that you can have fight first on a unit. Each time the warlord makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll. So that's cool if we have, let's say, a Demon Hammer Grandmaster that is just gonna fucking annihilate whoever he touches. So he can reroll all hits on 3s with the Demon Hammer. You give him the relic Demon Hammer, so it's damage 4. So that's probably what I would use this one for. So you get to reroll all hits, hitting on 3s, and then your damage 4 on your Demon Hammer, and you get to fight first. So you don't have to spend 2 CP to interrupt. You just fight first. So that's actually a pretty cool warlord trait. So I'd rank this not last. This is probably one above last, but that would be the that Brotherhood. So that is my insight. Again, I would definitely rank them Prescient, Blades of Victory, Rapiers and Sword Bearers tied, Word Makers, Preservers, Silver Blades, and Exactors. That's how I would rank them. So #1 Grey Knights player in the past 2022. So appreciate all you guys who've been following me for the past 2 years. If you guys are new to the channel, thanks for clicking on the video. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully there's some insights on what I've been doing for the past year. And if you guys are new, we do have a Patreon. So if you like the content, go check out my content on the channel. We are updating it almost every single day. There's 2 videos most likely coming out every single week, 2 to 3. Sometimes if you're lucky you get 4, but it's a lot of content coming up on the channel, a lot of how-to guides. This one I just thought of at the last minute, so I wanted to make a quick video for you guys. We're only at 33 minutes, so booyah. And if you guys are interested in some merch, there is going to be dice coming in the next month and a half. We're taking pre-orders now as of February 20th. 25th, I think today is. So we're taking pre-orders now, as well as objective markers. They're in the banner on my channel, the little logo guys. They're going to be on the objectives. So that's going to be brought to you by 3D6 Wargaming. They're going to be sponsoring the channel. A lot of shit is coming up, guys. So if I saw you at LVO, you're fucking awesome. But I'm going to be coming up to LVO again this year. So if you guys are planning on LVO, definitely go to LVO. It's so worth it. It's such a cool experience. But if not, appreciate it. Thanks for clicking on the video, and we will see you in another video soon.